Year 7 have received their first assessment task in mathematics. It's due in week 5, Thursday the 28th of February, and they need to hand that in to the Learning Hub. They will sign their name and date it. They can, of course, hand it in earlier. The latest they can hand it in is 4 p.m. on Thursday. The task is detailed below. There's part 1 and part 2. The marking criteria is listed, and then according to the marking criteria, this is what they'll receive marks on and be able to demonstrate if they are of a grade A range, B range, C range, etc. Part 1 is about categorical data, which we've been looking at in class in week 2 of mathematics. And students have already had the opportunity to survey students. They're surveying 30 students. Let's just say that I was doing colour and these were my results. If I were to work out the percentage of the total, well, it's out of 30, so 15 out of 30 is a half. So that would mean that my percentage would be 50%. If I wasn't sure what my percentage was, I can use my calculator. For example, if I was doing yellow, I would find 2 out of 30 as a fraction. And then I would multiply it by 100 because percentage is out of 100. If I get this improper fraction here, I press my SD button and that gives it to me as a decimal. I've been telling the students to round to 1 decimal place, so that would be 6.7%. I need to draw a sector graph, so that therefore I need to find the angle of each sector. In case you didn't know, a sector graph is also known as a pie graph. The angle all the way around in a circle is 360 degrees, so halfway round would be 180 degrees. But if I wasn't sure what my angle was, I can go back, let's say yellow again. I will use 2 out of 30, because that was my fraction. This time I'm multiplying it by 360 because there are 360 degrees in a circle. That gives me an angle of 24 degrees. So below I need to draw a sector graph, which would be a circle. I'd need to have a title. I would need labels and also the percentages that I've calculated here. So my labels would be my categories. My angle determines how big the sector is, and then I'd be writing my percentages. Then I need to answer some questions based on this data, and we're about to do what mode, mean and median are next week in week 3. Part 2 is another thing that we'll be working on next week in class. So this is the process of a statistical investigation. Let's imagine that Bob makes this claim that boys are better drivers than girls because they have a faster reaction time. Students need to write a question that will test this claim about boys being better drivers. Then they need to collect data on reaction times. They'll need to write down the steps that they would take to collect that data and work out how many people they will survey, what types of people they'll survey, and why they've decided that. Once they've collected data, and they will have class time to do that, they will need to display the data in 2 different ways. They will need to choose either a table, a dot plot, or a stem and leaf plot. That's type 1. And then type 2, they can choose to do a line graph, a column graph, a sector graph, or a divided bar graph. And they will do that in the space below. Finally, they will analyse data, and as I said before, we will be learning about mean, median and mode next week, and they'll be able to answer these questions. Finally, they'll be drawing conclusions based on their data, so who has the faster reaction time, boys or girls? They'll use the information that they've just collected above and perhaps use the mean or the median to support their answer. Typically, when you're doing a statistical investigation, you would write a full report on that, but I'm not expecting them to. All I'm asking them to do is write a paragraph that is explaining Bob's claim and answering whether it's true, whether boys have a faster reaction time than girls, or whether you may not be able to draw that conclusion. I've provided some statements that they may want to use. For example, they might say that the reaction time of a male student ranged from, and they would write the lowest score to the highest score. They might say that the mean was much lower than expected, or the mean for males was higher than females, etc. And so they only need to write a paragraph. They shouldn't be using more space than this. And you can see the marks that are allocated for each question with the question there. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you've got any questions about this task, but the students are using class time in which to complete the task.